this was practiced by a couple who has been married for many decades, whose marriage originally and initially was doomed to fail. In other words, the whole family told them that their marriage will not make it. And they established this practice, which they've done for many decades and have been married for many, many years. Now, before I share it with you, I also do want to tell you, as for my wife and I, we didn't and have not practiced this specific thing. However, we were also raised differently. It's hard to share that with many people nowadays, but we were generally raised, you get married and you stay married and you have no other options than to be married. In other words, I remember one of the elders from our church here at St. Nicholas sharing how when she went to meet the man whom she was going to marry, her parents told her to check him out to see if he is the person that she chooses. And if she chooses him, and in other words, chooses to marry him, she is not welcomed back to their home. In other words, she's not welcome to come back to the parents. Now, why did they say that to her? Because at that time, that was not an option. You make a choice and you stick with that choice for the rest of your life, regardless of the circumstances. Now, that's the way my wife and I both have been raised, and therefore for us there is no other option. And we've pushed through things, especially the first few years of marriage were rough and tough and difficult, but we pushed through it, glory to God, and let not the evil one hear. Our love has really become love nowadays, as opposed to what happened many years ago when we simply fell in love and then we went through the rough times, and these rough times made us who we are today. As I said, let not the evil one hear, because he doesn't like any successful stories of any of us in any way. In any case, this is the advice of this couple. What they have done from the first week of their marriage, they would come up with a word or phrase to uplift the other, something positive, something nice, something good. For example, they would come up with a word like darling, and they would use that word all week long, repeating it one to the other. And the following week, they would come up with another word, let's say, my love, and they would say that one to another continuously that week. And then they also made a decision that they were never going to repeat the same word. So imagine for 50 years being married every single week, and there are 52 weeks in a year. Can you imagine 52 weeks? That's almost 2,500 different words and phrases they've come up with in 50 years of being married. But they made a deal that they were never going to repeat the same word and phrase. And the way that they made sure of that, they had a book, a notebook in which they would write every week which word and phrase they used, and then they would go back, making sure that they don't use the same one, but come up with something new to say one to another. So what does this actually do when we practice it? I thought about this for quite a while after I heard this wonderful example and advice for married couples, which I think especially nowadays is very important. Well, it does three things. Number one, it makes both people in a marriage focus on marriage. Number two, it uplifts the other person. And number three, creates good example. Now, let me go into it a little deeper. Number one, it makes the couple focus on marriage. A lot of times, soon as we're married, few months after, we lose focus that marriage needs to be addressed and worked on every single day of our life. Anything and everything we work on and make an effort in usually becomes better and greater. We're more successful in it. Imagine signing up for gym and never partaking of it. It won't do anything for your body, or the exercise. There is no exercise, and therefore there's nothing good out of it. Now, so the number one thing it does is makes the people within the marriage focus on marriage and focus on each other, which we tend to lose focus very quickly and very soon after we're married. So the important thing is to focus on this because it's important. It's our life. It's our everything, literally, because, you know, people have children and they're busy with the children, and the children grow up and they send them their own way. And then 20 years down the road, they're left just by themselves, just like my wife and I are now. And then you have either in those 20 years become best friends, or you don't know who the other person is. It's not good to be in the second position. And therefore, one must make an effort to focus on the marriage daily and work on it daily if you want it to be successful, if you want it to be great, if you want it to actually grow in love and end up with love, which is defined in the book of life, the Bible. Number two, what this practice does is it uplifts the other person. And we all need to be uplifted. We have many things in life that are ups and downs and sad things and bad things and depressing and oppressing things. But when one says nice words or phrases to the other in the marriage, it uplifts them. We have to always make sure not to push the other person down, but to lift them up. And that's what this does for a person. Now, the third part does something for the community. The third part I mentioned why this practice is good, because it creates good example. Creates good example for the community. Most of all, if and when people have children, it creates a good example for the children. So this practice, number one, makes us focus on our marriage daily, weekly. Number two, uplifts the other person in the marriage. And number three, creates good example for community and or children. When we practice such things, we then achieve real love at the end of the day. I hope and pray this was helpful, and I hope and pray you establish this practice, especially if you need it, and especially if you are a young couple.